Hey everybody, it's GomletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we'll be playing another quick draft of Innistrad Crimson Vow. Without further ado, let's get into our Pack 1 Pick 1 Falcon Wrath Forebear. It's just a pretty solid rare, a nice evasive threat that produces blood tokens every time you deal combat damage to your opponent. So you get a lot of good blood tokens you can use to filter out the kind of draws you don't need, lands when you need non-land cards, and non-lands when you're digging for lands. And you can even use those blood tokens to return the Falcon Wrath Forebear from the graveyard to the battlefield. So very strong rare here. Pretty solid card. There are a few uncommons, maybe even some really good commons that I might take over the Forebear, but this pack does not really have any of them. Our best common is Sigarda's Imprisonment, which is probably the second best card in the pack, because our uncommons are all kind of slow, kind of dirtily. The Skulking Killer just doesn't trigger very frequently. The Vile Spawn Spider is the best uncommon, but it is a two-colored card. I'd rather take the monocolored card to start the draft off, so we'll see what we get past as we move into Pack 1, Pick 2. This pack is another pretty weak pack overall. There's not a lot of cards I'm a huge fan of. I do like Weaver Blossoms a good bit for ramp in the green decks. Wedding Invitation's fine because it can fit into anything and it plays very well in a vampire deck. Or we could just take Thirst for Discovery, which I think is probably the strongest card in the pack. Just a really good, really efficient card draw spell. It's instant speed. You draw 3 cards and then just discard 1 basic land. So it's pretty great instant speed card advantage. I think I'll go with that. We could also take Mysterious Blood Illness or Vampire's Vengeance if I wanted to just immediately lock myself into black-red vampires. But I'm just going to take the strongest card in the pack. Be more open to whatever we're getting past here. Take a Thirst for Discovery. Alright, Pack 1, Pick 3. The strongest cards are now in white. We have Sigarda's Imprisonment for a great removal spell, or Markov Purifier. If we end up in black-white, that becomes a very powerful, very consistent black-white life gain strategy, where this can be a sweet card draw engine. Definitely Imprisonment or Purifier here. Imprisonment is a little more open, because if we get pushed off of black, we can still play this in any other white deck. But we're a little bit more tied to black than blue right now with the Forebear, so Purifier is not a horrible card to scoop up this early. I think I'd rather go for Imprisonment here, though. Have a bunch of very solid monocolored cards, be open to whatever's going on in the packs. Alright, Bloodcrazed Socialite, one of the strongest cards in the pack. It's like an absolute semi-truck, as long as you're sacrificing a blood token when it attacks. Hitting as a 5/5 menace, which is huge. Fierce Retribution's pretty good removal, but Bloodcrazed Socialite is such an efficient beat stick. I like it a little bit better. My favorite card in the pack is actually Wandering Mind by a small margin. I think it's a bit stronger than Socialite or Fierce Retribution in a vacuum, but it is a 2-colored gold card, and it's in a color that we have 0 cards for so far. So we'd move to blue-red, drop Imprisonment and Forebear to get there. Whereas the Socialite, we could go black-blue or black-white and only end up cutting 1 card if we head in those directions. I'll take the Bloodcrazed Socialite here. Still a very strong card. Well, Blood Tithe Harvester might get me to just cut those other 2 cards here and start pushing towards black-red vampires. Very strong card, sees all kinds of standard play. It's just so efficient. A 2-mana 3/2 is just an efficient, aggressive stat line in the first place, but this also gives you a blood token, and this also can sacrifice itself to be used as a sort of removal spell, so it's just super flexible, super powerful, and super efficient for that mana cost. We'll take the Harvester here. If it wasn't in there, there would be a pretty close competition between Kindly Ancestor and Scattered Thoughts, another great blue instant speed card draw spell, or a great card for the black-white life gain archetype. But since the Harvester is here, I'm just going to take that. Pack 1, Pick 6, we see no good red cards and no good black cards. Neither of those are cards I'm super happy with. I'd pretty much never play Vampire's Kiss. Fearful Villager would be filler, so I could still go for that. Spore Crawler's pretty good in green, Scattered Thoughts is pretty good in blue. I guess I'll take the Scattered Thoughts so we still have a blue-black backup plan. I don't think I'm going to be hurting that much by missing out on the Menacing Werewolf. Pack 1, Pick 7, Sanguine Statuette is perfectly playable in the red-black deck. It's not super exciting or anything, but it's solid filler in my opinion. And nothing in this pack is exciting outside of Flourishing Hunter for green. We're kind of off that color. Okay, pack 1, pick 8. Some solid blue cards like Syncopate and Catgeist, but there's also a decent red draw spell with Reckless Impulse. Flame Breather can be good in the combo-oriented red decks, but that's not going to be us in red-black. Not going to be casting a ton of non-creature spells, trying to burn people out with that. Just take a Specimen, but everything in the pack's pretty filler at this point. Bunch of filler again. Invitation versus Lacerate Flesh is the big question in this pack. Invitation's better in a vacuum because there's a lot of good removal in this format. And if you end up with 3 or 4 really good removal spells, you're almost always just going to cut Lacerate Flesh. But if we have 0 other removal, Lacerate Flesh absolutely makes the cut. And we currently have 0 removal, so I'll go for the Lacerate Flesh over the Wedding Invitation. We do have 1 Imprisonment, but we're not looking super likely to play white here. I do like Point of Discussion. Digs very far, a very big card draw spell in black. And the Festivities is a little too narrow. Obviously really explosive in the right matchup where your opponent has a bunch of 1/1 flyers, but in the matchups where they don't, if you're just against like red-green werewolves, or, I don't know, green-white training, or green-black mid-range, or anything like that. Basically anything with green, then this card does literally nothing, and you're going to have a really bad time with it. Wretched Throng's pretty great if you can get a bunch of multiples, but definitely deeper into black than blue right now. Take a Bloody Betrayal that I probably won't end up playing. And the Festivities I probably won't end up playing. And see what we open up in pack 2. Alright, I like Foreboding Statue a lot. It's a very powerful ramp card. It fits into literally any deck and eventually just becomes a 5/5. That's a nice open option here. Wedding Security can be good if you can get multiple attacks off of it. You could start sacking your blood tokens to just straight up draw a card. But it is kind of slow, hard to get multiple attacks off with it. Celebrant's a pretty good 2-drop. Courier Bat's great if you can gain life. I'm not a big fan of Curse of Hospitality. This is a card where you enchant your opponent and then every time you hit them, you get to exile a card from their library that you then have access to. You can cast it from exile as though it were in your hand. So it's a card that can start drawing you a bunch of cards if you can keep hitting your opponent multiple times. But you have to be in a position where you can hit your opponent multiple times, and if you're already in that position, you're already probably winning the game just with combat damage, getting several good attacks in. It's good if you have like a ton of like 1-mana 1/1 flyers and stuff. We're going to keep chipping in with those kind of cards. But I don't think it's the greatest in just like black-red. I'd rather take Foreboding Statue right now. Pack 2, pick 2. Nothing good in black or red again. Unfortunately, just didn't open up any good cards. The only card that's taken out of this pack is the rare, and there's just poop for black-red. That's pretty disappointing for us. We'll have to speculate into another color like the Diver Scab in blue as just the strongest card in the pack. 5 mana, 3/5 body, and some nice removal attached if you can sack a card. Okay, no great red in here, but we've got some pretty good black. Could take the blue-black uncommon, Skull Scab, which is going to spit out a 2/2 zombie every time that we sacrifice a non-token creature to an exploit ability. So that is what the blue-black archetype is. It is blue-black sacrifice. I think our red isn't very good. We have like Lacerate Flesh, Bloody Betrayal that are both really bad. Impulse that's pretty filler. Statuette also pretty filler. The only good red card we really have is Blood Tithe Harvester. Whereas in blue, Thirst for Discovery, Scattered Thoughts, and Diver Scab are all higher quality cards than every single red card we have outside of the Harvester. So I don't think it's that out of the realm of possibility that we take Skull Scab and swap over to blue-black instead of black-red here. And I think that's what I'm going to try to do. We'll take the Skull Scab, head towards blue-black exploit. We could also take Diregraph Scavenger, which is a very solid card for our black deck no matter what. How much better is Skull Scab than Diregraph Scavenger? If we're in blue-black exploit. It's only a little bit better. I mean, Diregraph Scavenger is still really good, even if we do pivot to blue-black. So I guess I should take the Scavenger here. there's a very, very little cost in taking Scavenger over Skull Scab because it's still going to be a card that we're very happy with in the blue-black deck. And this way it's another card we can absolutely play in any other deck that we end up in, black-white or black-red or anything like that. Which, speaking of, all these red cards are pretty bad. The black card's pretty bad. So we just take the good white 2-drop now. 2 mana 2/2 that can come back from the grave as an aura, giving another card +2/+2, which is pretty good value. That is a pick 5 Flame Blessed Bolt. That is a premium removal spell in this format. There's a lot of things that can randomly come back from the graveyard, like Drogskull Infantry and Persistent Specimen, so being able to exile is really nice to have on your 1 mana red burn spell. I like Flame Blessed Bolt a ton, we'll take that there. Alright, so we could play Gargantua or Desperate Farmer, no matter what our deck ends up being, because we're, I think, most committed to black. Got 2 very solid white cards, 1 very solid red card, and a great gold card. Could take Celebrant to commit to red-black. I do like these white cards more than anything the pack outside of Syncopate. I think I like Heron of Hope a little better than Syncopate. If we disregard what's in my deck, and this was pack 1, pick 1, I'd probably be on Syncopate or Heron of Hope. However, we just got a pick 5 Flame Blessed Bolt. We have a Blood Tithe Harvester. Celebrant is going to be a super good card for that red-black Vampires deck. I think we can disregard Heron of Hope, because if I don't take Celebrant, I should probably take Syncopate with 3 good blue cards. If I'm taking a non-black card, or we could just go for the coward pick here and just take a black card. But I guess it's mildly possible that we end up in like blue-white or red-white or red-blue. That would be a lot harder, but it's possible. What's our curve look like for red-black? Pretty reasonable, but that's with a Bloody Betrayal and some filler. Yeah, red-black looks really reasonable. Makes the best use of our Falconwrath Forebear, our rare there. Blue-black. Blue-black has less cards and a worse curve, but higher power cards with the Scab and these great draw spells. And then black-white has like the least card quality of them all. Or just the least amount of cards out of them all with just Infantry and Imprisonment there. Interesting. I think I'm going to take the Blood Petal Celebrant here and just try to firmly end up in red-black at this point after seeing that Flame Blessed Bolt. Alright, and we got a great follow-up. Blood Crazed Socialite is super, super good. I think it's better than Vampire's Vengeance, even in the black-red deck. Socialite is just so massive. It is such a win condition. And it's also a super, super safe pick. Now we've got a Voldaren Epic here, which is a great way to start the game. Get a little Vampire on the board, shoot your opponent in the face, get your first blood token. Super happy to take it. Invitation's also fine here. Take the Epic here, though. Alright, Courier Bat, not looking super hot in our deck, but we're getting very committed to black-red. Ceremonial Knife, we'd definitely prefer not to play it, but if we're really short on playables, it can end up in there. Same with Pyre Spawn. And same with Flame Breather, Frenzied Devils, and the rest of the pack. We'll see what we open up for pack 3, pick 1. Alright, well that's one of the strongest rares in the format. One of the most well-known bomb rares in the format, the Dreadfeast Demon, a 7-mana 6/6 flyer at the beginning of your end step. At the beginning of your end step, not the beginning of your upkeep. You sacrifice a non-demon creature and then create a copy of it. So if your opponent doesn't have instant speed removal for Dreadfeast Demon, they will lose the game 99% of the time. Because you'll play Dreadfeast Demon, go to your end step, make a copy of Dreadfeast Demon, then your opponent needs to either kill you, which means they have to be able to kill you through 2 6/6 flyers, or they have to be able to kill 2 6/6 flyers, or they're just going to keep making more. Dreadfeast Demons, an absolutely absurd bomb, and easily the pick. Alright, pack 3, pick 2. We'll get a nice filler 2-drop creature, the Mind Leech Ghoul. Take that over Lacerate Flesh. One of the worst things about our deck is the lack of good removal right now. But Lacerate Flesh isn't good removal, it's just more filler removal. It doesn't help us that much there, we just have another 5 mana burn spell. I'll just take the Ghoul over it. We'll probably wheel it, to be honest. Alright, Bleed Dry fills in that hole in our deck where we have a lack of good removal. Bleed Dry helps that a ton. One of the best removal spells in the format at instant speed. -13 kills pretty much anything, and it exiles to get around graveyard abilities. Easily the pick there. Gonna go ahead and sort my curve with the non-creatures outside of it. Statuette, like, is kind of half and half. It half counts and it half doesn't. Okay, I could use a couple more 2-drops, I'd be fine with that. I'm not a big fan of Gift of Fangs. It's not going to kill anything big, and it's not going to kill anything against a vampire deck. Blood Fountain is solid. Late game recursion. It's pretty slow though, and I already have like Point of Discussion for a nice value play and a ton of blood tokens. I'll just go for another creature, take a Blood Petal Celebrant. Copy number 2. Gluttonous Guest is a card I'm really happy to play. Very high toughness card that can sit there and gain life as we sacrifice our blood tokens. Helps us dig for our bombs and have a really large body to keep us alive till we get there. Now we'll take a Wedding Invitation. Just cycles itself, maybe gains some life somewhere, which is nice. Second copy of Gluttonous Guest would be pretty exciting. That'd be making it a lot easier to potentially play our Courier Bat with 2 pretty consistent ways to gain life. But I actually think I might take Grisly Ritual. We have Lacerate Flesh, Bleed Dry, and Flame Blessed Bolt. It's not a lot of removal. Grisly Ritual is very slow removal, but it can kill any creature or planeswalker. Unlike like Lacerate Flesh. This is a really close pick between the Gluttonous Guest and the Grisly Ritual for me. I'll go for the Grisly Ritual. Like, both of these cards accomplish that late game looting, because they both give us at least 1 blood token. And I think I could just use as much removal as possible in this format. Easily take another Bloodcrazed Socialite. Now Blood Servitor, but I don't think I'll be playing it. Another Lacerate Flesh. That did wheel. We will play that. Won't play Vampire's Kiss or Bloody Betrayal or any of these off-color cards. So we need to actually add some cards from our sideboard back into our deck to wrap it up here. But I do think it's a pretty solid deck. Right, like we don't have the best curve ever. We don't have the greatest creatures on curve. But we have some pretty good ways to end the game and a lot of ways to dig for the Dreadfeast Demons or the Bloodcrazed Socialites. So again, 3 Socialites and a Dreadfeast Demon to try to win the game. Tons of ways to draw into them. We have so much blood token production between the Celebrants, the Harvester, the Epicure, the Gluttonous Guest, the Forebear, the Socialites themselves, the Statuette, the Point of Discussion, the Lacerate Fleshes, and the Grisly Ritual. So we can just dig for our few very good cards. And we've got a decent amount of removal to stay in the game. Very solid deck. So what do we want as the 40th playable? Do I just play an 18th land in here? Is that I never miss a land drop? We always make it up to Dreadfeast. And again, I have so many blood tokens that every time I'm flooded out, I'm just digging the lands out of there. Digging for non-land cards. I could see Courier Bats, but I only have Gluttonous Guest and Wedding Invitation for life gain, so only 2 cards that can trigger it. If I had double Gluttonous Guest and Wedding Invitation, I'd probably be cool to run Courier Bat, but I'm actually going to go all in on Dreadfeast Demon and just run an 18 land deck here. So it's really hard for me not to be able to cast the Dreadfeast Demon by the time that the game ends. And again, we have a lot of blood tokens to cycle out of those lands to make sure that we don't flood out. So we'll just add an 18th land and check our colors. 12 black cards, 9 red. Sure, I've got no double red cards, but a lot of double black, so we'll go 10-8 split there. And call it a deck. Alright, here we have a look at today's deck. It's another black-red Vampires deck with a huge bomb at the top end of the curve, a Dreadfeast Demon. So we have a ton of decent removal, a ton of blood token production to dig through our deck digging for big cards like Dreadfeast Demons, or our alternate win condition, 3 Bloodcrazed Socialites to just beat down. So super nice deck here. We're running 18 lands because we have a ton of blood tokens to filter those lands out in the late game. And we also have a Foreboding Statue, so with 18 lands plus statue, we should be able to cast the Dreadfeast Demon consistently if and when we draw it. Pretty excited about the deck, so we will just hop into the gameplay and see how it does. Here we are in game 1. I'm going to have to mulligan this hand. We don't do anything till turn 4. That's just a little too long to wait. And there we go. We've got multiple 2-drops now. We'll keep the hand. I'm not in love with having a Reckless Impulse in an opener in this deck, because again, we have one card that is just the most explosive card in our whole deck, and that's a 7-mana card, so I'd really rather not exile that in the early game and just not be able to play it. That could be awkward. Alright. We just attack into that. They'll have to recast it to shut off the Celebrant. And then we play a Foreboding Statue. Okay, we will hit for 2. Opponent has set up their Soul Cipher board here. So if they keep dumping mana into this, eventually it will flip into a 3/2 flyer. And every time they dump mana into it, they can just surveil 2, basically, put one of the cards on top of their library, one into their graveyard. Alright, so they've milled a Distracting Geist, so they are blue-white Disturb. They're going to have a lot of these kind of cards that they can recast from grave. Okay. Take our 3 damage from Binding Geist. And does this trigger when it becomes tapped or when I tap it? Specifically when I tap it to add a mana is when I get an Omen counter on it, so I can't choose to attack with it here and still expect to flip it soon. So since I have to tap it anyway, I guess I could tap it in their end step. Yeah, I can tap it in their end step. Alright, we'll play Mind Leech Ghoul, sacrifice our Blood Petal Celebrant, make them exile a card from their hand. Exile the Radiant Grace, because they have no white sources, and then we'll play a Blood Petal Celebrant and pass the turn. So next turn is when I can Reckless Impulse, because I can cast these cards until the end of my next turn. So next turn I have 6 mana available, so if I Reckless Impulse into my 7-drop and a land, I can play the land and the 7-drop next turn before it's just permanently exiled. So even if I hit Dreadfeast Demon, it should be castable if I Impulse next turn. Okay. Do have the mana to Impulse and play the Socialites. Let's do it. Get a Flame Blessed Bolt and a Mountain. Alright. Do I have Flame Blessed Bolt right now, or Socialite right now? Play the Socialite. Well, I could Bolt and use the Blood token. It's not like I'm doing nothing else with my mana the other way. This way I hit them for 4 immediately. Yeah, Bolt seems fine. Alchemist's Retrieval, pick up their Binding Geist to replay it next turn. Super fair. Super fine by me. I guess I could have cracked the Blood token immediately if I hit Voldaren Epic here. That would have been castable. The 1 red mana card. Sky Warp Scab. I'm assuming they have enough creatures. They do. They have 2 creatures in grave. So they can go ahead and draw a card here. Alright. Another Bloodcrazed Socialite, not bad. Got a Bleed Dry to get that out of the way and just keep hitting them. Fine, I'm just going to set up for big attacks though. So that when I do Bleed Dry, we've got massive attacks. So we've now got multiple 5/5s to send in as well. The Forsaken Thresher and the potentially 5/5 Menace Bloodcrazed Socialite. Pass the turn, hold all of their mana up. Would not love to see a Syncopate here. I mean, I wouldn't hate it either. If they Syncopate this Bleed Dry, then I can still attack with my 5/5 and my Socialite. Maybe we just attack in with the 5/5 and the Socialite, and if they do anything, then we Bleed Dry, and if they don't, then we just play another Socialite. Alright, they're just going to scoop them up. Fair enough by me. We are going to start this draft off 1-0 as we head into Game 2. Here we are on the play for Game 2. It's a little bit awkward to have the 7 mana card in the opening hand, but that just means that we know if we make it to 7 mana, we're probably winning the game, if they're not in blue where they can't counter the Dreadfeast Demon. This is a pretty scary card. It keeps training up and eventually blows up a bunch of artifacts and enchantments. That's okay to just bolt. Alright, here's the Celebrant. We already have 4 out of 7 mana. Wedding Invitation draws us another card, potentially hits another land on the curve. We are against blue-white, so we do need to be worried about a counterspell from our opponent, potentially, for the Dreadfeast Demon. So we'd like to try to cast it while they are tapped out. Evolving Wilds digs any basic land out of their deck. They're going to choose a swamp. They are 3 colors. Hit us for 2 with the infantry. And that is all they've got for now. Probably holding up a Syncopate for 1 or something like that. They thought that long and decided not to play anything. I mean, all I have are 4 mana cards in my hand, so I guess I could just play around Syncopate for 1, but if they Syncopate one of these for 1, then they don't have a Syncopate left over for Dreadfeast Demon. Or they don't have that Syncopate left over for Dreadfeast Demon. Who knows, they could have like 3 in the hand. Socialite's so strong here, though, that I think it's worth just waiting until we have 5 mana up. Alright, Drogskull Infantry. Pass the turn. Syncopate this. Alright, they don't have a Syncopate. They did not even pause for a second. So I played around nothing. Interesting. Could double block Celebrant and kill it. I think that's fine when I can immediately exile one with a Scavenger, so I'll wait till next turn to do that. Alright, Wanderlight Spirit, a 2/3 flyer that cannot block non-flyers. Lacerate Flesh. Don't really need that here. Probably crack the blood, discard that, try to find the 7th land. Though I guess I don't attack with Socialite without cracking the blood token. Yeah, that's a little awkward, but my board state is good enough. I don't need to dig for a way to play Dreadfeast Demon immediately. Oh, Fierce Retribution. Alright, well then I guess I don't have to sack the blood if they're going to kill it before I choose to. Let the 2 damage in. There's no creature in their grave. Could exile my own creature for the life drain. Or just lacerate their flyer. No, I think I'm going to discard Lacerate Flesh to try to hit a land. So I will play the Scavenger now. It's a big enough blocker to stop the infantries, and we can drain them for a couple life. It's not ideal, because it's obviously better to exile in infantry in their grave, but the alternative of lacerating the Watchful Spirit I'm just not very interested in. And the alternative to those 2 plays of just doing absolutely nothing this turn is something I'm incredibly disinterested in. Do at least something here. Nurturing Presence on the Wanderlight Spirit. It is getting scarier. Not scary enough to get through a 6/6 though. So I'm still gonna just crack the Lacerate Flesh to a blood token. That is not a land, but maybe we top deck the land? Yes, we hit the land from that. They're tapped out, we just play the demon. Let's go, pass turn. We've got 2 Dreadfeast demons now. They have to kill both of them, or every creature we play for the rest of the game is going to become a copy of Dreadfeast demon during our end step. So if they have 2 removal spells here, like a removal spell and an unsummon, they can get there. Cemetery Illuminator is fine. Lets them play cards off the top of their library, I think. Yep. If they share a card type with something in a grave. They choose instant? No, they choose creature. Blood Petal Celebrant. Thought that was my Flame Blessed Bolt for a second. But it is not. Okay. Let's just Grizzly Ritual the Illuminator here. One of these demons gets through, I kill them next turn with Wedding Invitation. They shouldn't be able to kill both right now, unless they have exactly Fierce Retribution plus Unsummon. Alright, so they take 6, so next turn they're dead to Wedding Invitation. And they're gonna scoop it up, since my Diagraph Scavenger is about to turn into another demon. I mean, I don't think that was very fun for our opponent, but sure, that was fun enough. We'll give it the happy face, give it the thumbs up as we move into game 3. Here we are now for game 3. We got that Blood Petal Celebrant on turn 2, into Gluttonous Guest turn 3, into Bloodcrave Socialite turn 4, a really good curve. I like it a lot. Opponent will start off with a Voldarin Epicure. Shoot us for 1, get a blood token. Opponent is on blue-red. Drops a Wedding Invitation to draw a card. It's us for 1, because they can't block the Celebrant well anyway. Okay, let's poke for 2 with the Celebrant. Celebrations are in order. It's time to go to the buffet with our Gluttonous Guest. I really like buffets. I like buffets too much. Whenever I go to a buffet, I make sure not to eat any other meals that day, and then I just eat like 3,000 calories in one sitting. It's not healthy. It's not healthy, but it is delicious. I don't know what blocks they're planning on making here. I guess we'll find out. Chill of the Grave. Okay. Alright, yeah, Epicure can't attack into the guests, so that explains that part, but the not playing anything is what I kind of meant, what they have to play on defense. And it is Chill of the Grave. Fair enough. Poke for 1. And we drop our Blood-Crazed Socialite and pass the turn. You know, the thing I like about buffets, not trying to be like super gluttonous, that's not the part that I love about it. It's the variety of stuff. I like getting like 2, maybe 3 plates. But the thing I like the most is each plate that I get, there's like 10 different things on it. Just a little bit of like 10 different things. I like trying all the different stuff. Well, Rending Flame is very annoying. At least we're not under any pressure yet. But we need a new threat. Otherwise we're going to sit here staring at each other for a while. Flame Breather, I'm going to have to kill that. Into Wedding Invitation. I'm going to kill the Flame Breather with Grizzly Ritual. Get the sorcery speed removal out of the way, get the more expensive removal out of the way, and get more blood tokens. Bleed Dry is just way easier to cast more quickly on a later turn. Alright, our opponent is going to start using their blood tokens. We've hit them down to 13, we are up to 15, so we're winning the race a very tiny bit. But they have more cards than we do. Wandering Mind, very, very good card. 2/1 flyer, and they get a card from the top 6. Scattered Thoughts, another great card. And our opponent is about to jump miles ahead of us in card advantage. Probably try to close out the game by just casting a lot more cards than us. Wandering Mind into Scattered Thoughts will certainly do that. Alright, Reckless Impulse of our own can try to keep us in the game if we hit anything decent. Swamp says hello. Gotta start cracking our blood tokens now. Really rather not have to bleed dry a 2/1 flyer. There are more than enough scary cards in this format, even if they don't have a bomb rare. They could just end up playing like the 4/4 menace creature or something. That kills me a lot faster than the 2/1 flyer. Yeah, I'm not going to play Bleed Dry here. I'm just going to keep cracking blood tokens for this turn. Until I can find a non-swamp here. I guess just non-land. We did have a mountain. Well, we're going to do a lot of digging. And there goes all of our blood tokens. Well, that was about 5 in a row. Not much we can do about that. I mean, I could be playing 17 lands instead of 18, but again, that's 1 less land, so it still would have been like 4 in a row. Whoa! I'll take it. Something had to have come up. There's no way that was game related. Right, I mean, they've got 4 cards in hand and a better board state to our 2 cards in hand. They have a Scattered Thoughts. 100% something came up in opponent's life. They had to just go deal with something. Yeah. There's no way that that was them thinking that they definitely lost this game. Alright, well, that's a bit awkward, but I guess that's some more free gems for us, so undeserved 3-0 at this point? Undeserved 3-0. We'll see how things go as we head into round number 4. Here we are in game 4 with a pretty controlling hand. A couple removal spells and a couple of draw spells. But I will keep it. Some of our best interaction. Some really good ways to dig through our library. Try to get to our powerful late game plays. Traveling Minister is going to start things off with our opponent. That is more than good enough to just bolt. One of the best commons in the format, a very sweet card. Constantly buffing your board and gaining life at the same time. Fair Mind Leech Ghoul on turn 2. Nice little 2-2 to start swinging in. A point of discussion next turn again. I'm going to try to wait to impulse till I have 6 lands on the board. Ooh, very nice. We found the curve with our Blood Crazed Socialite. We went Bolt into Ghoul, into Discussion, into Socialite. Uh-oh. As long as they control 7 or more enchantments, their creatures with Flying and Vigilance, that doesn't really matter. Whenever they cast an enchantment, they also get a Spirit with power and toughness equal to the number of spirits they control. That is horrific. Okay, so every time they cast a Disturb spell, like the back half of the Brinecomber, it comes with another creature token. Alright, yeah, that's gonna be pretty bad. Could be a very explosive card, but we mostly probably have to put their creatures in their graveyard for that to do much. There's not a lot of great enchantments in the format outside of the back half of these cards. Yeah, like there's Nature's Embrace and stuff, which you wouldn't play in like any other deck, but you've got a Hallowed Haunting, I guess. Yeah, you definitely play it here. Wow, they have 4 spirits out because when they target the Brinecomber, it makes another 1/1 flying spirit. The Brinecomber's a spirit, so that's 3 of them, plus the token from the Haunting. Wow, alright. They built their entire deck around the Hallowed Haunting here, and they drew it against us, so we're definitely going to lose. Alright. Yeah, that's explosive. Having the Brinecomber plus Hallowed Haunting combo kills us pretty greatly. Opponent went for some high variance, high power plays, and definitely got rewarded. They're definitely the kind of deck that they could also just have hit Traveling Minister into some random like 2-mana 2/2 no text and all those auras, and then they would have had a pretty bad time. Alright, if they just have a Nature's Embrace and a Radiant Grace in hand with no Brinecomber, no Hallowed Haunting, those cards do very, very little to impact the game. But they do a massive amount with those cards. Yeah, I'm just going to move on at this point. Just the dream hand for the Hallowed Haunting game. Cool stuff from our opponent as we move into game number 5. Alright, here we are for game 5. Our opponent's on the play. We've got a Guest turn 3, Blood Crazed Socialite turn 4. A little slow, but I'll keep it. I, again, don't really want to Impulse turn 2. But if I don't draw anything else for turn 1 or turn 2, I might do it anyway. Most of our deck is going to be castable by the end of the turn after we Impulse. Okay, thank goodness we draw into a Blood Petal Celebrant, and I don't have to take that risk. We could just play a very playable card. So our opponent is on blue-white with a panicked bystander on the board. They are freaking out. I don't know what's going on. But secretly, they are the one who caused the murder. I love the flavor in this set. It is so good. Yeah, Gluttonous Guest time. I'll trade Celebrant for whatever weird combat trick they have. None. No weird combat trick. Alright, I'll play Gluttonous Guest. I'll trade that for a counterspell in a deck that has Dreadfeast Demon. Yeah, I will happily trade that for a Syncopate. Actually, even if we didn't have a Dreadfeast Demon in our deck, just getting a Syncopate out of the way so a Socialite resolves instead of a Guest also feels good. Here's the Socialite. Pass the turn. We can't attack into the 3/3 body there. Ew. Angelic Quartermaster is a really good card. 5 mana for a 3/3 flyer, and you get to put a +1/+1 counter on 2 other creatures you control. So 5 mana for a total stat line of 5 power and 5 toughness, and 3 of it is flying. Card is quite strong. Oh yeah, I kept a slower hand on the draw here, so we're gonna have to take some trades down at this point. Very much not in love with it. The Rallier can't attack alone, so if I take this trade and I hit a land and kill Quartermaster with Lacerate Flesh, then we get some breathing room. If I don't hit a land, then I get to go cry in the corner as they bully me and take my lunch money. Alright, we play a Scavenger then to trade into the Rallier at least. We also gain some life there, which gives us some time to hit the Lacerate Flesh mana. Good God. Now a Dreadlight Monstrosity with Ward 2, so I need to have 7 mana to kill that with Lacerate Flesh. Oh my god, and they can only give the Monstrosity unblockable because I exiled a card in their grave. They didn't naturally exile something with one of their own spells. That is such a cruel joke. Alright, shoot the Quartermaster. Pass the turn. Now we're just going to take 5 unblockable damage per turn. We die in 3 hits. No, not if they imprison. Well, I guess, yeah, Monstrosity can attack without paying mana, so yeah, now we die in 2 hits, actually. Ah, shoot. Thought it was a good thing they imprisoned. No, not if they imprison the Death Toucher, then I just don't have a block on Monstrosity. This is a very bad thing. That's so bad right now. Alright. Impulse hit Bleed Dry? Nope. What can you do? So I'm not dead on board if I play Socialite, but I have to go chump chump. There's no winning there. Actually, they just make the Monstrosity unblockable and kill us. Well, that was rough. That was just a phenomenal aggressive curve from our opponent. Angelic Quartermaster being the real MVP there. But just curving that all out together while on the play. Gonna find an aggressive victory in Limited. We are now 3-2 as we head to Game 6. Here we are for Game 6 on the play. I know that our 7 drops in our hand and one of our 6 drops, so that makes the Impulse more powerful. I am asking for this Flame Blast Bolt to carry a lot of weight here, though, because this is a really slow hand. If our opponent has a nice aggressive curve again, we could have some pretty big issues. So let's Impulse here, hopefully land in a 3-drop. Oh my god. That's one of the worst Reckless Impulses of my life. I think that might actually be the first time in my life I've completely missed on an Impulse. Well, it is what it is. We basically mulliganed to 6 there. Because now Impulse did completely nothing. It just impacted the game not at all. So basically turned ourselves into a mull to 6. The fact that we exiled these 2 cards, not that bad. Like, that's the equivalent of if they were just on the bottom of our library and we never drew them. So that matters less. It's more that we hit nothing off impulse, so we essentially just went down a card for no reason. That just makes it so I basically, again, as I said, just mold the 6 off of that play. Opponent kept a mono-colored hand. They did find their second color now. Things are looking pretty okay for us. I have the removal for that Fell Stinger if I need to kill it. And I've got more removal in my hand, and I'm hitting really hard. And if I make it to 7 mana, we have that Dreadfeast Demon at the end of the game as well. Yeah, I don't even need to bolt the Stinger to win the race right now, so I'm going to let it be. Rot-Tide Gargantua. They could sack the Stinger to make me sack the Guest. What happens if they do? When more creatures put into your graveyard from anywhere, create a 1/1. They get a 1/1 in replacement? So it would be sack Stinger, I sack Guest, they get a 1/1, they have a 5/4 and a 1/1 then. I think that's worth countering by just exiling the Fell Stinger before they can sacrifice it. They could still sack the Gargantua, but that would not be a good play. Alright, hit the mana for the Grizzly Ritual. I guess we are going to give them a 1/1 chump blocker by doing this, but that's better than a 5/4. Oh, that only triggers during their turn? Whenever one or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere during your turn, create a 1/1. Okay, that's a little confusing the way that they word it. Because they word it where it says this triggers only once each turn at the very bottom of the card. So I'm like, okay, so that triggers once each turn, as in like every turn, as in during my turn as well. But then I have to go back to the start of the card and see during your turn. Ew, that's a good combo. They've got the Specimen with the Gargantua. They're going to get a 1/1 insect and make me sack a creature. Now they have the double block ready for the Socialite. Forebear's a pretty good draw here, actually. Having a flyer to send in. Could attack with Socialite, trade with their whole board. Just clear it out. But I think I'd rather leave it here and just attack in the sky. Right now. Because if I leave it here, that's another creature I might be able to turn into a Dreadfeast Demon later in the game. Toxic Scorpion. Now they get to send a 1/1 in, and I can't block it because of the Death Touch. They're dead in 2 hits to my Falconwrath Forebear, so hopefully that'll do Oh no. Mind Leech School with all these insect tokens on board to exile the Dreadfeast Demon from my hand. Really doesn't get any sweeter than that for our opponent. They're still dead in 2 hits in the sky. They still need to find removal. I don't actually think I want to shoot myself at this point of discussion. I'm at 11. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They don't have lethal on board. If I shoot myself, they do. So if I shoot myself and then they remove Socialite, I'm dead on board. So I'm just gonna discard this draw card. See if I hit a play. We do. We hit another Socialite. Okay, good. Making sure... No! Oh, god. Dang it! I hate the auto-tapper so much in this game. I was gonna say... I was literally saying out loud, making sure to hold up a black for the Forebear, so if they kill it with something that doesn't exile it, I can bring it back during their end step with the 2 blood tokens. And then Arena didn't hold up the black there. Wanted to cast Socialite for double black, double red. Unless I'm losing my mind and we used black on the blood token for some reason, but that wouldn't make any sense because we had 4 red sources and 2 black. We should have used the red for the blood token. I don't know, I need to start manually tapping my mana. Because the play there was definitely red source blood token, black and then 3 red for Socialite so we can hold up the Forebear ability. Either way, they did not hit removal. They actually milled 2 heroes downfall. I didn't even see that. That's so brutal. That's insane. They literally milled 2 heroes downfall as their last 2 mills from the crawling infestation. If they drew either of those, they could have killed me because I didn't manage to hold up the black for the Forebear. Right? Like they just attack with a few creatures, blow up the Forebear. I can't bring it back till my next turn, then they attack with a few creatures again. Maybe not guaranteed kill me, but they would have had a decent shot because I didn't have the black mana up. Actually, a crazy close game there, but we will be 4-2. Got a positive win rate here as we head into game number 7. Here we are for game 7 with a very good curve. Epicure into Ghoul into Forebear into Socialite. Little 1/1 body of the Epicure doesn't tend to matter very much at all later in the game, so I think I'm going to just make them discard a card with it, with my Mind Leech Ghoul. Now that I drew a Blood Petal Celebrant, I could just still curve out and then just leave the 1/1 behind to sack later. Oh, they buffed my Epicure. Very kind move from our opponent. Our opponent's on white, probably not mono white if they're running Evolving Wilds. And also there's just very few mono-colored decks in Limited in the first place. So let's see what colors they are. White-blue. We played against a lot of white-blue today. Kindly Ancestor is the play. Actually really good on this board. Basically a 3/3 lifelinker with the Traveling Minister. Got no cheap removal right now. I could trade my Socialite into it later, but that's about it. Racing with my Falconwrath Forebear is going to be pretty much impossible because they gain 3 every time they hit me and I only deal 3. So it's a losing race. Yeah, Kindly Ancestor, very big with a Traveling Minister on the board. Grandma is not happy with my life decisions right now. Time to start paying the price. Yeah, they have 4 mana up for any tricks here. Any trick in the game ruins me. I'm gonna take the 3. Oh lord, that is bad. Welcoming Vampire lets them draw a card every time they play a creature with power 2 or less. Just once per turn, but that is still a monumental amount of card draw potentially getting set up. Opponent's got a very nice curve here. Guess they didn't have a turn 2 play, but still. Traveling Minister with Kindly Ancestor is a really solid combo, and then a Welcoming Vampire for a card draw engine setup here. Not what we want to see. You know, the worst part about this is if I don't trade with the Kindly Ancestor, we're never going to outrace them. And if I do trade with the Kindly Ancestor, they just get to put lifelink onto the Welcoming Vampire, and then I'm never going to outrace that either. Got 2 flyers now. Things are looking pretty over here. They probably put Ancestor's Embrace onto the Wanderlight Spirit. Start buffing that with Ministers, that not all of their eggs are in one basket. They're kind of spreading out their threats that way. Yeah, I was about to say you're gonna syncopate me for 1. Tell you what, I've got the 1 mana. Yeah, I expect. Time for an embrace on the spirit, yep. I don't know if that seems like a flavor fail to me. That the spiritual embrace of your ancestors is embracing your spirit form. It's supposed to be embracing the ones that are still living. Flavor fail. I don't agree with it. I think our opponent should get banned mid-game for that. That absolute flavor fail. Well, kind of have to ritual now, otherwise I take another 6, go to like 4, they still gain 1,000,000 life. But we're pretty sure they have syncopate based on how they played last turn, which means ritual's just going to get syncopated. But if I don't try to ritual now, like, they're still winning on board by a lot, so they can just hold up syncopate again and win this game either way, so let's just have them show me the syncopate and then we can scoop them up. Hey, there it is. Who would have guessed? Not me. Paul Red Hot Ones meme. Still have 2 cards. Do they have to blow up an attacking creature as well? Wow, yeah, we were never winning this game. There's some quality stuff from our opponent. I don't have to scoop yet. I have 1 final turn where I could top deck Dreadfeast Demon. But I actually don't have 7 mana, so I guess I can't scoop now, because even that, it doesn't win the game at this point. Alright, we're dead. Forebear cannot block, period. So we're dead. Actually, wait, I should have dug with this. We would have lost regardless, but I could have, instead of playing Mind Leech Ghoul, or instead of playing my Swamp, dug and maybe hit a Bleed Dry to kill that, and then just take 3 next turn. Yeah. Could have lived another turn. I'm trying to think of any combination of draws that can still win us the game if I do somehow hit Bleed Dry. Okay, so the play is we play the land so I can crack as many blood tokens as possible. I dig 1, 2, 3 cards deep before I'm out of Bleed Dry mana. So if Bleed Dry was in the top 3 cards of my library, then I could have Bleed Dried the Wanderlight Spirit to take 3 damage this turn instead of 5, because they would just buff the vampire instead of the spirit. Or if I killed the vampire, then they buff the spirit still. I'd go to 2. We Bleed Dry 1 of the 2 flyers, and then I go to 2. And then they pass. I've got 1 turn to draw an out. Okay, so it's a monumentally low chance and probably didn't matter, but I did misplay there because technically if Bleed Dry was in the top 3 cards of my library, I had enough mana to dig for it by discarding Mind Leech Ghoul. If I go land for turn, discard Ghoul, draw a card, discard whatever it is, draw a card, discard whatever it is, draw a card. If Bleed Dry is any of those 3 cards, then I Bleed Dry 1 of the flyers. If my opponent has no response to that, then we only take 3. We are at 2 life. We get 1 final draw step where I don't have enough mana to use any more blood tokens and still try to draw Dreadfeast Demon, and Dreadfeast Demon's the only card that can win the game from there. So if Bleed Dry was in the top 3 cards and Dreadfeast Demon was right underneath it, that was the corner case where we could maybe win that game. Oh, and our opponent has nothing, has no counter spells left in hand. If those 3 things were true, all 3 of those are really unlikely. The most unlikely thing is that our deck is stacked to be exactly Bleed Dry with exactly Dreadfeast Demon underneath it. But then we could have won. Technically, it could have been Bleed Dry into Lacerate Flesh. into Dreadfeast Demon. But again, I still need to hit the demon really, really, really quickly. And if I don't hit the demon, I need to hit a second removal spell for another flyer. And there's only like one more removal spell left in the deck. I don't know. That's all a bunch of hypotheticals. I'm just going through it because it's the last game of Magic no matter what. That is the third loss of the night. Still a positive win rate. I'll still take it. But that is going to end that draft. We'll take another look at the deck. This is going to be the last quick draft of Innistrad Crimson Vow. Just wanted to hop back into the format at least one more time, but it is going to be off Arena on the 17th. And we're going to be spending the rest of this week focused on some of the other sets. We've got Strixhaven. They're going to talk about some Shadows of Innistrad and Lord of the Rings spoilers, so I might make a video about those. But yeah, we've got a midweek Magic draft for Strixhaven tomorrow. So I didn't want to do Strixhaven today because we're just going to do it tomorrow anyway. And then probably do another Phyrexia draft, and then another Strixhaven draft, and another Phyrexia, then another Strixhaven. Bounce around after that. So this was kind of the last day, last opportunity to fit a Crimson Vow draft in there somewhere. So I figured I'd give it a nice little swan song, a nice little final draft. A little bit of a bummer that we drafted black-red again, because we did do that like the most two recent drafts as well. So kind of a bummer to end up in the same kind of color pair, but I'm pretty happy with how I drafted and where we ended up with the deck. I think there was a super reasonable, maybe blue-black exploit deck would have been the best place to be. But I think it was pretty solid to stay in black for these Blood-Crazed Socialites. We didn't have a huge other reason to be in black, so could have seen a good argument for being primarily in white maybe early in the draft. But the fact that we opened up Dreadfeast Demon Pack 3 pick 1, pretty happy. Pretty happy that I ended up in black in this draft pod. So if I knew the exact future of everything I was going to open and get past throughout all of those packs, maybe like blue-black exploit Dreadfeast Demon, something with black in it for sure in this draft pod. But I think the red worked out okay. Some Lacerate Fleshes and a Flame Blessed Bolt. Some decent cheap creatures like the Celebrants, the Epicure, the Harvester. Never got to play the Harvester, which is a little sad, but solid stuff overall. Not a bad way to end the drafts of Innistrad Crimson Vow. Well, that is going to end today's video. If you enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more, you can always leave a like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you more of these videos in your recommended feed. If you'd like to hang out with me live, you can catch me a couple times a week live at the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. And other than that, as always, just want to thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.